Well, thank you for joining us and welcome to this edition of On the Whistle, Coventry Online's only sporting talk show. We have a packed show for you tonight and including international, domestic and local sport in action. I'm your host, Jaydee Dyer, and I have the pleasure of being joined in the studio tonight by both of my co-hosts, Ayo Lana.
Hello.
And Thomas Bloomfield.
Hello. We've got a packed show for you tonight. Thank you, JD. I'm just going to quickly run down about the rules now. So, we're going to be talking about loads of different sporting events. The twist is, you've only got a certain period of time to talk about those events. What's going to happen is you'll hear a whistle when the time is up, and it's going to be moved from one presenter to the next. We're going to keep that going through the whole show. We're going to keep it fast-paced and entertaining for you guys.
Well, thanks, Tom, for clearing that up, and Ayo, thanks for joining us again tonight in the studio. As we discussed, we have a packed show for you here, so let's jump straight into the action. And firstly, boys, there's nowhere better to start than the FA Cup ties. The People's Cup, and how do you boys feel the FA Cup quarter-final ties fared up this week?
Okay, we're going to have a minute each to talk about each of the quarterfinals a little bit more in depth. So let's start with Manchester United versus West Ham. Man United beat Shrewsbury 3-0 to progress here, and West Ham managed to get there by beating Liverpool on penalties. It's an all-Premier League affair at Old Trafford, so how do you see it going?
Personally, I feel like the actual tie favours West Ham because of their impressive away form. I feel like their form away from Upton Park, or the Bullying Ground, as it's well known now, has favoured them. I feel like they're a great counter-attacking team, and Man United have obviously had their struggles at home this season. Yep. So that in the midst of all of the FA Cup history and the tie could actually favour West Ham.
Ayo, this is West Ham's last season at the Bowling Ground.
Indeed.
How do you think it would be to them to sign off their stay there with some silverware under Slaven Bilic?
Exactly, I think that's definitely the dream that I think every West Ham fan's hoping for. They took, I think, 7,000 fans away to Blackburn on the weekend.
Incredible numbers.
And that shows just how much people care about this trophy, and I think it's the perfect way for them to sign out.
And Louis van Gaal possibly quickly getting a trophy, can you see it happening?
Well, he's got the squad, he's got the potential. I mean, let's not deflect away from the actual attention that Man United still have a lot of quality amongst their players.
Okay, moving on, we're going to talk about Reading versus Crystal Palace. Reading beat West Brom on the weekend and Palace beat Spurs. So how do you boys think that's going to go?
Well, I mean, Reading, potentially, this is 2 semi-finals in 2 seasons. For a Championship club, that's remarkable. I mean, it's like Sheffield United had a few good cup runs over the last few seasons. It's now Reading doing that.
That's true.
We've got Brian McDermott coming back to his former club, and he steadied the ship, not doing too bad in the league, quite average, but once again a real cup run is on the cards, and they've got a good chance against Crystal Palace, who have been struggling in the league themselves under Alan Pardew. What do you guys reckon?
I feel like Crystal Palace's turn of form in recent, I think their last 12 games has been quite up and down. I think it's had an impressive start to the season, but I feel like a good cup run could definitely be where this Palace team needs to feature themselves this year.
And what do you think about Crystal Palace, Alan Pardew in the FA Cup, which he nearly won himself with Crystal Palace back in the 90s? Can they do it?
I think them beating Spurs showed their credentials, because clearly that was a big result for them to beat Spurs, who are such good form, who are challenging on so many different fronts right now.
I also feel like...
Sorry, JD, we're out of time, and we've got to move on now. The next quarter-final we'll talk about is Everton versus Chelsea, another all-Premier League tie at Goodison Park. We've got Chelsea, who have got really good pedigree in the FA Cup as of late, under Gus Hiddink, where they won the FA Cup in 2009 against Everton. So how do you see that one going?
Well, Gus Hiddink hasn't actually lost a game in the FA Cup, if you actually check his history. So
as Chelsea manager?
As Chelsea manager. So I believe that Chelsea would be the favourites. I think that their turn of form and the attitude of the players has been a revelation under Hiddink. But I feel like Everton are the team to watch this year. I feel like they've been the most entertaining team in the league, minus Leicester. And I feel like with the quality they've got amongst their mix, they could definitely do the upset.
And Everton beating Bournemouth to get to this stage, another Premier League team. Roberto Martinez loves a cup run, as we saw with Wigan when they won it in 2013, and getting into the semi-finals of the League Cup this year.
He does love this cup.
He does.
What can we see from Everton going forward?
Just attack. They have some of attacking wise, Barclays, Lukaku, just some of the best players.
Barkley, Romelu Lukaku.
Exactly. I think 2 of the best players in the Premiership right now, 2 of the best talents in the Premiership.
And the final quarter-final draw of that tie would be Arsenal or Hull versus Watford. How do you boys see that featuring up?
Well, obviously there's a replay with Arsenal and Hull City to come. Obviously it looks like Arsenal might win it, but we're a tough trip at the KC Stadium. Watford, it's a chance for them to get to Wembley. They haven't been there since they lost to Crystal Palace in the playoff final of 2013. So it's a great chance for silverware, really. I mean, they've had a great season staying in the Premier League as it is under Slavisa Jokanovic. It's a real chance. Arsenal away will be tough if they get them, but...
Say the favourites do go through, which is everyone expects Arsenal to progress. How do you see Igalo and Deeney featuring against Koscielny and probably Mertesacker?
Well, Igalo and Deeney, Odion Igalo and Troy Deeney have lit up the Premier League this season. They've been terrorising most defences. It's a bit like the Riyad Mahrez and Jamie Vardy of Leicester City. There's no reason they can't go there and scare the life out of them. I mean, Mertesacker is a very slow defender, as we know, and Igalo plays with a lot of pace. So,
but I think the fact that the home tie, it could be either Arsenal or Hull, I think that favours both teams. I don't favour Watford.
Well, sorry, Ayo, you know the rules. You have to cut you off. Well, boys, we're down to the final 9. I know it's kind of awkward in an FA Cup quarter-final, but I would like to know who you both feel would be who's going to lift the silverware in May.
Well, I mean, it's quite early to say, but you've got to be looking at teams like Manchester United and Chelsea.
Tom, put your hat on the team.
To be okay. I mean, you might put a hat. I'm going to go for a little bit of an outside one. I think if West Ham can get past Man United, they've got a real chance. But I would say for these quarterfinals, I can see it being Man United, Crystal Palace, Chelsea and Arsenal in the final 4, all the favourites winning. What do you think, Ayo?
But
I'm going to stick with West Ham, by the way. I'm sticking with West Ham.
I favour Arsenal again, 3 years in a row.
3 years? I think the first team in history to make.
I think it's possible. I think there's the past 2 years have shown that the bottle like they've actually got the.
Arsenal haven't lost in the FA Cup in their last 14 games.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
It's an impressive stat, that.
So it's a great record, and I think they could do it again. I'll just get past Watford or.
But I say these two guys are Arsenal fans. That makes complete sense
no,
as to why they would
no
say
additional
that.
information there. No additional information, but.
Okay, thank you guys for that. That was wonderful. But now moving on to another topic, we're going to talk about the Capital One Cup final that's being held on Sunday. This is the trophy that most teams usually don't play their best teams, and it's going to be held on Sunday between Man City versus Liverpool. Liverpool won the last league fixture 4-1, so City will be looking for revenge. How do you boys think that's going to go?
Well,
I'll let you go, Tom.
Okay, we're going to have 2 minutes to discuss this first. I'm not quite sure, really. I mean, as you say, Liverpool won the last fixture, so it's quite open. Just a little bit of background, by the way. Man City have won the Cup 3 times, but it's Liverpool who've got the real pedigree in the League Cup. They've won a whopping 8 times. This will be their 9th success.
Do you feel that gives them an advantage going into the final?
I think you can't really say it gives them an advantage, but it shows that they've been in big game experiences before, but we already knew that.
So it's an unnecessary stat.
So it's unnecessary stat. It's quite interesting. I thought the viewers at home might be interested to know about that. That was all. But it's a chance for Jurgen Klopp to win his first piece of silverware. Do you think he's going to do it?
I feel like, honestly, I don't believe Liverpool are consistent enough. I think obviously a cup final is a one-off game, but I don't feel like the quality that Liverpool show on a consistent basis is enough for them to turn around and say, yeah, I can put my hat on them to win the cup final. They have the quality. They have Coutinho's back balling. They have Daniel Sturridge, who's looking really sharp. They have Firmino, who's come into good form at the turn of the year. Yep. But I just see too much quality in the Man City team.
Coutinho is balling, according to Jaydee. Do you agree with him?
I think Coutinho's a fantastic player.
He's balling.
However, Man City have David Silva, and that is...
David Silva's had a disappointing season.
He has, but this is David Silva talking about. This is one of the best players in the past 5 years.
How do you boys feel about Raheem playing against his former team?
Raheem Sterling? Yeah. I don't think it's going to be much of a factor, to be honest. I think in the wider scope of things, Manuel Pellegrini is obviously looking for trophies to end his career with the Manchester City because he's leaving at the end of the season. Pep Guardiola will be taking his place. It's interesting to see how the City squad have reacted since the news has broken out. Will they want to play for their manager to show that he is good and wants them to win? Yep. Or are they going to take their foot off the gas because they know he'll be gone in the summer? Is that going to be a factor?
I also believe there's fixture congestion. With the main first team players getting a rest in their previous fixture when they were obviously dismantled by Chelsea, I feel like that will favour Man City. The rest of the Agueros and the Silvas that you were talking about got against Chelsea will actually help them when it comes to Sunday's fixture.
And quickly, guys, predictions. Who's going to win?
Man City.
I'm going to say 3-1 City.
I'm going for Man City too.
Yeah. Okay, Tom and Jaydee, I'm going to give you both a minute and a half now. I want you to just talk about what you think Liverpool are going to win this game. What's their strong points?
So where's it going to be won and lost then? Well, Liverpool's defensive record has been a bit shoddy as of late. I mean, they've conceded... It's being nice, isn't it? They've conceded so many goals from unnecessary set pieces.
They conceded 4 at Norwich.
Defensive mistakes. Well, they scored 5 of those, so they still won the game.
Of course, in a cup final, it's just about winning the game on the day. But at the end of the day, when you come up against quality opposition like Manchester City, if you concede 4 against City, you might not score 5 against City.
And
that's the realism of the opportunity.
Normally, you get cup finals and they're quite cagey, tight affairs. I can see that happening, but Liverpool really need to improve defensively for that to happen. That gives them their best chance of winning the game, in my opinion.
In terms of Liverpool, I feel like they need to get their tactical approach correct. I feel like Jurgen Klopp wants to go out and play this adventurous football and attack teams and blitz them because of the high work rate and the high intensity. But in the cup final, on a big Wembley pitch, it's important to sometimes just be tactical, be tactile, time your moments as to when to press, when to close down.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree, and it works, this kind of high pressing, high attacking format against maybe some of the lesser teams in the Premier League.
That are not as gifted on the ball as yourselves.
But teams such as Manchester City, who have the ability to pass the ball around almost at will, it's tough.
He's talking about one of the best, if not the best passing team in the country. So to turn around and say that you're going to press Yaya Toure deep in his own half, Yaya Toure will find his gaps and find his way out.
And quickly, where are the goals going to come from Liverpool? We need to have the strikers firing on all cylinders.
End of the day, I still think Daniel Sturridge is England's best striker. So Daniel Sturridge, if you give him a chance in front of goal, he will finish. Okay, now boys, vice versa. Well, obviously we know the other team in the cup final would be Manchester City. Where do you feel like their strengths and weaknesses are going into the final?
Sergio Aguero.
That's not a bad strength to start with, let's be honest.
The best striker in England, one of the best strikers in the world, can win a game by himself.
I mean,
at any given time.
we saw him win the semi-final, the second leg against Everton when they needed 3 goals. Aguero stepped up and has done what he's done time and time before, scored vital goals to win important games for Manchester City. He's such a positive.
So the rare that the Argentine might not be on his A game, where do you believe that other strengths of Manchester City lie?
Raheem Sterling.
Raheem Sterling, and he's playing against his former club, Liverpool.
And I think that's definitely. I think he might be playing with purpose because the way he left wasn't the best league.
Acrimonious is probably a good word to describe it.
Exactly. So I think he might be playing with purpose, a bit of hunger, and he might be trying to play his best football and show Liverpool what they're missing.
I think in terms of other players, talking about Iheanacho.
What is done?
He's a youngster coming through the City Academy. Probably the first one to really broken through since all this money's been pumped into City's Academy. I'd say he's probably the first one to break through to the first team and stay there. He's scored.
I think Pellegrini's shown a lot of faith in him.
Goals this season.
He's shown a lot of faith in him, selling Jovetic and Dzeko as well.
Yeah.
To turn around and say that basically Iheanacho can be the supporting striker.
Alvaro Negredo as well.
Exactly. And he has made Wilfred Boney, who they signed for a lot of money, be first choice striker.
30 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, and now he's a first choice striker.
I think that's a credit to his development as well.
So these 2 strikers are going to be the ones that could really win the game for Manchester City. Quickly, I'll also say they've got a very strong defensive backline, but it could be weakened if Vincent Kompany isn't fit.
That is it, yeah.
So thanks for that, guys. Great discussion about the Capital One Cup final there. We're going to move on now into a different sport. We're going to talk about rugby union and the Six Nations. Now we're going to go off the format a little bit. We're going to have a big 5-minute discussion because it's such a big subject. We've got the Six Nations third round of fixtures coming up this weekend. It is Wales-France, and then it's Italy-Scotland, and finally England versus Ireland at Twickenham. Now, we're going to start now. I'm going to say, guys, to kick off, there's never going to be a better chance, really, for England to win the Grand Slam. They've won their first 2 games.
Impressive start.
Can they do it?
Impressive start. I mean, comprehensive victories over both Scotland and Italy. I feel like Eddie Jones has really got his team compacts. They're efficient and they're working for one another.
It's not the prettiest rugby. It's not Southern Hemisphere rugby.
But it's efficient.
It's a period of transition, and kicking off with 2 wins, you can't ask really for more than that.
And especially the performance in Italy, I thought was very compromising. I thought they showed a lot of class and a lot of dominance in difficult conditions.
Well, yeah, the first half was close, probably too close for Eddie Jones's liking and the fans. But in the second half, they were punishing mistakes. Jonathan Joseph's hat-trick blew Italy away. Didn't really have a chance after that. It's interesting how the draws opened up for England, because you've now got, after the first week where there was the draw between Wales and Ireland, and then the second week with Ireland losing to France, England are in a perfect position now. Ireland are going to be wary. England have to be wary of Ireland, to be honest. They're going to be hurting from the France defeat. I was just in terms of Ireland's defeat to France, that would have been seen as a little bit of an upset. They're going to be wanting to reply in turn and ruin England's chances. Yep. Ireland are going to be dangerous at Twickenham on Saturday. There's no doubt about it.
Especially at Twickenham, I think that's good. I think that Spurs team's on a lot more as well. The fact
that's interesting you say that.
Trying to beat England in their own background. I think this shows. I think this gives teams the added incentive.
I mean, Australia did it in the World Cup.
Yep.
Wales did it in the World Cup. That was the killer.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say that the Twickenham crowd can be used against England.
Yeah,
when
the pressure.
there's 80,000 people there, a lot of hopes. It's interesting that you think that it could be detrimental to England's chances.
So do you feel like this England team is in the sense of rebuilding? At the sense, obviously, after a disappointing campaign, World Cup campaign in front of our own fans, do you feel like this England team is pointing in the right direction now under Eddie Jones' reign?
Well, I agree with you when you say that it's a period of transition now. We've sacked the coaching staff, that they've left.
Scrapped
what
it.
we had. We're starting afresh now with Eddie Jones, who was kind of flavour of the month after the heroics.
Fantastic
Japan's heroics in the World
South
Cup.
Africa, yes.
The only side to have won 3 World Cup matches and not qualify. First time that's ever happened. Qualifies the quarterfinals. So they've gone for a foreign coach and are looking to rebuild and transition now for the 2019 World Cup, which is held in Japan.
I feel like he's bringing a lot of that Southern Hemisphere grit and determination to rugby into that England. I can feel it within the England dressing room. I can feel it when as soon as they start a game, the intensity is high and they want to make big tackles straight away and leave their imprint on their opposite number.
However, he's also gone away from that because Southern Hemisphere is known for better
quality rugby.
Better quality rugby,
more
more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah,
looks better.
and English teams and Northern Hemisphere teams are known for their power and
But I feel
their
like
scrums and their mauls.
he's intertwined both really well and effectively using the kicking game.
Yeah, I can't argue with that really. It's going to be interesting to see if Owen Farrell can continue his fine form. He's looked good since the World Cup's happened. Obviously, the disappointment. Every player who was on that World Cup side is going to be hurting because it didn't go how any of us wanted it to go, how they wanted it to go. We were the only ones really that let down the World Cup, which was probably the best ever in terms of rugby, in terms of entertainment, in terms of everything else.
How about the other fixtures on the weekend then?
Wales versus France.
Yeah, we're English and we're talking about England too much, aren't we?
How do you feel the Wales versus France game will line up?
Well, France obviously still on for the Grand Slam as well, the only other team because they've won both their games so far, but they're going to be seen as underdogs coming in to the cauldron of noise that is Millennium Stadium. The atmosphere there is second to none.
It's incredible.
Wales realistically are going to be struggling now to top the group. It can still happen, don't get me wrong, and they will still believe they've got a chance.
We've seen more surprising things in Six Nations history.
Especially with Wales yet to play England, which is going to be the big one.
Big game.
But that is at Twickenham.
I do believe that Wales could still have a real imprint as to where the Six Nations actually falls this summer.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they have enough about them to beat France.
Yeah.
Although, as you say, Twickenham can be a detriment to England's chances at home. It's not the case for Wales because the atmosphere is so loud, especially when the roof is closed. The atmosphere is so loud, so feral. It drives Wales on
Wales
to
have
a better
suggested
things.
they're making 3 changes for the weekend's fixtures. Alex Cuthbert's coming into the team as well, so it will be brighten up the Wales team.
It will, and I'll still say that Wales will win though. And the last game, Italy-Scotland. This is basically to decide who's not going to finish last. Basically, Scotland once again so disappointing in the Six Nations, especially when they took Australia all the way in the quarterfinals of the World Cup.
What a game that was.
What a game that
What
was.
a game.
Italy once again showing signs of promise, but they're still leaving too much to Sergio Paris. Without him, they are half the team of what they are with him.
I just feel like Scotland's problem is the inconsistency in their form away
So
from
inconsistent.
home and home. I mean, when they're at Murrayfield, they look a completely different team
They
to
do.
when they're playing
And
away
quickly,
from
who's
home.
going to win? Italy or Scotland?
Scotland.
I'm going to go Scotland as well.
Okay, I'll go for Scotland as well.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that. Now, a speciality of On the Whistle. We love to discuss things across the pond.
Let's go to America.
Let's
do
go
it.
to America. Well, following All-Star Weekend and the trade deadline in the NBA, it's now crunch time in the NBA season, with the fight for the playoffs heating up in both the Eastern and the Western conferences. So, boys, I'm going to ask you, who do you think will make those final playoff positions?
Let's have 3 minutes to discuss this in a big group discussion. JD or Ayo, one of you take it away.
I'll let you take it away.
I really like the Atlanta Hawks, to be fair. I think they've definitely got a good team, and I think they're not too far after them 6th, 7th, 8th positions in their conference.
Well, they're 6th at the moment. They're 6th seeds at the moment.
Well, Atlanta Hawks had their franchise best season last season
exactly,
under
there you
Mike
go.
Budenholzer, so it would be impressive for them to continue, especially after they trade away.
However, I will quickly say about the Atlanta Hawks, yes, they're 6th seeds at the moment, and they were top seeds last year, had their franchise best season. They have now got 25 games left, and they've arguably got the toughest schedule of any team in the NBA coming forward. They've got the Golden State Warriors coming next week, which is obviously the toughest because Golden State are blowing everyone away at the moment. They've only lost 5 games all season, so they're not out the woods of even getting into the playoffs yet. They've still got to win enough games to secure a seed.
I feel like the Hawks, under Budenholzer's coaching, he's come from the Greg Popovich school of coaching at the Spurs, will understand the efficiency of utilising his team and with the Hawks not really having a star, it will make the Hawks look like a better team all round. And that's why I feel like their team chemistry and their team bond will get them through into the playoffs. They have enough quality about them.
I want to talk about the Western Conference for a minute as well, guys. At the moment, having a .500 average, so winning as many games as you're losing, at the moment, that's enough to get in the playoffs. It's not a spectacular record. It shows that there's not that much needed to get in the playoffs. And I remember you saying last season you didn't even need a .500 average to get in the playoffs.
It's incredible how the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference have kind of had that power shift. I mean, last season you were looking at the Knicks, you were looking at the Magic, you were looking at the Pistons, all struggling under 500, but all still in playoff contention. And it's now the whole dynamic has kind of changed to the Western Conference now. It's incredible to think that the Utah Jazz, Sacramento Kings, they're all still fighting and they all just about have a 500. The Houston Rockets, they all have just about a flat 500 record.
Well, I was actually going to say the Utah Jazz are one franchise to look at because they've only lost one more game to beat with having a .500 average. So if they win that game in hand, they will have a .500 average, which means they'll be enough to get in the playoffs at the moment. So they're one to look out for. But it'll be interesting to see if any of these seeds, lower seeds, so the 6th, 7th, and 8th ones, are going to be good enough to challenge the big boys of the conferences.
No, I mean, when you bring things into perspective, let's be real, the NBA Championships is going to be decided between 4 teams. It's going to be either the Raptors, the Cavaliers, the Spurs, or the Golden State.
So the full names of them, just so for people.
Toronto Raptors, the Golden State Warriors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, or the Toronto Raptors. Really and truly, that is where the NBA Finals is going to be determined this year. I mean, we've seen the impressive form of Golden State, who's actually chasing history this year.
Explain.
Well, they've only lost 5 games out of the 55 they've played so far, which is obviously the fastest and the best record at this stage of any NBA season in history. I mean, they're chasing what everybody knows as the 72-10 from the Chicago Bulls. So, I mean, at this stage, to have only lost 5 games, it shows the depth, the quality, and the efficiency of the Golden State Warriors.
Do you think it's possible?
Yes, more than likely they have the stars.
Last but not least for this Across the Pond segment, we're going to move on to Tiger Woods.
Yeah, well, there's a story that came out in America about Tiger Woods a couple of days ago that he can't even walk anymore. He's having trouble walking around his own house. Now, he's said that those reports are absolutely rubbish, but I just want to open this up for a 2-minute discussion quickly in the show. This is one question. Will Tiger Woods ever win a major again?
My personal opinion, no. I believe that Tiger Woods' game has changed so much as he's progressed in his age. If you really reflect on Tiger when he first came into the golfing and on the PGA tours, the real centralized or dynamic that separated Tiger away from his competitors was his power game. I mean, the length in his drive, his initial shot, really separated him and gave him an initial boost.
And his putting was always clutch as well. I mean,
his composure was incredible.
Games, big time situations, he always thinks.
So you combine the two with his approach game as well, being of a very, very good standard. I mean, Tiger was really blowing away his oppositions. But if you take out his power game now, with all the injuries that he's succumbed to, I believe that it's really going to affect him, and he's never going to get back to that elite quality that we now see with Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth.
Well, plus, you've now got these guys, Jordan Spieth, Bubba Watson. They can crush the ball, 300 yards plus. It used to be only people like John Daly or specialists who could do this. Nowadays,
and you need to understand they've all learned this from Tiger's dynamics. Tiger's laid the foundation down, and now everybody's followed that footwork.
With the equipment that they've got now, so many people can do it. But Ayo, I mean, are we even going to see him win a minor tournament again? Are we ever going to see him in the top 100 again? Because he's fallen so far from grace.
I think it's sad to see. Like, it's always sad to see some of the greats decline the way it happens. But yeah, exactly. His life, the past few years, haven't been the best on him. And I think golf. I think he should hang up. To be fair,
you think this is it now for Tiger Woods? We're not going to see him come back at all.
No, he could almost do what Kobe Bryant's doing this year. He could still have his US Opens and his St Andrews Opens and still really enjoy being the spectacle that he is, because he is still one of the greatest golfers, if not the greatest golfer that ever played.
He still pulls the crowd, but I think it's slowly dwindling.
The name alone would pull in an audience.
True, but I would say now that Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth are up there in terms of names. Like, younger fans are going to be looking at McIlroy and Spieth rather than Tiger Woods. But let's not forget all the Opens and all the majors that he won. That's never going to be touched, is it? And that's going to be something that's going to carry on forever.
For years. He'll still go down in golf history as one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest. Well, thank you from Tom.
Thank you very much.
And thank you from Leah.
Thank you.
And thank you from myself. So thank you for joining us, and make sure you stay tuned for the next edition of On the Whistle. And also stay close to Coventry Online.
Take care.